I'm Isabella Rodriguez, 24 years old, and I thought my family loved me unconditionally until they proved otherwise in the most devastating way possible. My younger sister Maria was getting married, and I had found the perfect dress for the occasion, a stunning emerald green gown that made me feel like a princess. Then, 1 week before her wedding, I discovered my dress had been deliberately ruined while I was at work. What happened next exposed the ugly truth about my family's priorities and changed my life forever. If you've ever felt overshadowed by a sibling or dealt with family jealousy, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button to join me on this journey of standing up for myself. Growing up in a traditional Mexican-American household in San Antonio, Texas, I was always taught that family comes first. My mother, Carmen, 48, worked as a nurse at the local hospital, always putting others before herself. My father, Miguel, 50, ran a successful landscaping business and was known throughout our neighborhood as the man who could make any yard beautiful. And then there was Maria, my younger sister by 2 years, who had always been the more social and outgoing of us two. Our childhood was filled with quinceañeras, family barbecues, and Sunday masses where we'd sit in our matching dresses, perfectly behaved little girls who made our parents proud. Maria and I shared a bedroom decorated with pictures of telenovela stars and pop singers, dreaming of our future weddings while braiding each other's hair and practicing dance moves we'd seen on TV. The shift in our relationship began when I turned 16 and had my quinceañera. I had spent months planning every detail with my parents, choosing a deep purple theme with silver accents. The dress was everything I had dreamed of: layers of tulle, intricate beadwork, and a sweetheart neckline that made me feel like royalty. The night of the celebration, as I danced my traditional waltz with my father, I noticed Maria sitting at our family table, her expression sullen despite the festive atmosphere. Why does she get all the attention? I overheard her asking our cousin Sophia later that evening. It's not fair that she gets this huge party, just because she's older. Mom quickly reassured her that her own quinceañera would be even more special, but I caught the look of resentment in Maria's eyes that night. It was the first time I realized that my happiness could somehow diminish hers in her mind. High school amplified these dynamics. While Maria was popular and had a large circle of friends, I excelled academically and was involved in student government and debate team. When I was elected student body president my junior year, Maria made sure to mention to anyone who would listen that popularity contests didn't really matter and that she could have won if she had bothered to run. Isabella always has to be the center of attention, she complained to our parents one evening after I had excitedly shared news about being accepted into the National Honor Society. It's like she thinks she's better than everyone else. Dad looked up from his newspaper with a frown. Maria, your sister works hard for her achievements. You should be proud of her. I am proud, she said quickly, but her tone suggested otherwise. I just think sometimes she tries too hard to show off. College took us in different directions, but the competitive undercurrent remained. I received a full academic scholarship to study business administration at UT Austin, while Maria chose to attend a local community college to study cosmetology. She was talented with hair and makeup, often doing elaborate looks for her friends' special events, but she seemed to view my academic success as somehow invalidating her own talents. During family gatherings, relatives would inevitably ask about our futures. When I mentioned my internship at a prestigious marketing firm in Austin, Maria would quickly change the subject to talk about the salon where she hoped to work after graduation. If someone complimented my grades, she would mention how she was learning practical skills that would actually make money. Not everyone needs to go to a fancy university to be successful, she would say with a pointed look in my direction. Some of us prefer to learn by doing rather than just reading about it in books. Despite these tensions, when Maria announced her engagement to her longtime boyfriend Carlos at last year's Christmas dinner, I was genuinely thrilled for her. Carlos Morales was 26, worked as an automotive technician, and had been part of our extended friend group since high school. He was kind, hardworking, and clearly adored Maria. Most importantly, he seemed to bring out the best in her, encouraging her ambitions and supporting her dreams of opening her own salon. I want you to be my maid of honor, Maria said to me privately after dinner, her eyes bright with excitement. I know we've had our ups and downs, but you're my sister, and I can't imagine my wedding day without you standing beside me. I hugged her tightly, hoping this shared experience would help heal some of the wounds between us. Of course I will. I'd be honored. Just promise me you won't try to outshine the bride, she added with what I thought was a playful laugh, but there was an edge to her voice that should have warned me of what was to come. The wedding planning process began smoothly enough. Maria had chosen a beautiful venue, the historic Majestic Square in downtown San Antonio, and selected a color scheme of blush pink and gold. As her maid of honor, I threw myself into helping with every detail, from addressing invitations to organizing the bridal shower to coordinating with vendors. 3 months before the wedding, we went dress shopping together. Maria found her dream gown at the first boutique we visited, a stunning mermaid-style dress with delicate lace appliques and a dramatic train. She looked absolutely radiant, and I told her so repeatedly. Now, let's find something for you, she said, turning to the bridesmaid section. I was thinking maybe something simple in the blush pink. Nothing too fancy. The sales associate showed us several options, all in various shades of pink and all quite conservative. High necklines, modest cuts, nothing that would draw particular attention. I tried on a few, but none of them felt quite right. They were pretty enough, but they didn't reflect my personality or make me feel confident. What about that one? I asked, pointing to a stunning emerald green dress hanging in the evening wear section. It wasn't a bridesmaid dress, but the color was gorgeous, and the cut was elegant without being inappropriate. Maria's face immediately tightened. That's not a bridesmaid dress, Isabella. And it's not even in our color scheme. I know, but bridesmaids don't have to wear identical dresses anymore, I said, trying to keep my tone light. And green would actually complement the pink beautifully. It would make the photos more dynamic. No, Maria said firmly. I want everyone in pink. That's what I've always envisioned. The sales associate, sensing tension, suggested we look at other options. But none of the pink dresses felt right to me, and I could see Maria growing increasingly frustrated with my lack of enthusiasm. Fine, I said finally, choosing a simple pink A-line dress that was pretty but unremarkable. This one is lovely. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the emerald dress. It had been absolutely stunning, and I knew it would have looked incredible on me. More importantly, it would have made me feel confident and beautiful on such an important day. 2 weeks later, I made a decision that would change everything. I went back to the boutique and tried on the emerald dress again. It was even more beautiful than I remembered, a classic A-line silhouette with a flattering V-neckline, 3/4 sleeves, and a knee-length hem that was elegant but not overly formal. The color brought out the warmth in my skin tone and made my dark hair shine. You look absolutely stunning, the sales associate said. This dress was made for you. I bought it impulsively, telling myself I could wear it to other events even if I didn't wear it to Maria's wedding. But deep down, I knew I wanted to wear it to the wedding. It made me feel beautiful in a way the pink dress never could. For weeks, I kept the dress hidden in my closet, wrestling with the decision. Part of me knew Maria would be upset, but another part of me felt that I deserved to feel confident and beautiful at such an important family event. I wasn't trying to upstage her. She would be wearing a stunning white gown that would make her the obvious center of attention. I just wanted to feel like myself. A month before the wedding, I finally decided to tell Maria about the dress. I invited her to lunch at our favorite Mexican restaurant, planning to explain my reasoning and hopefully get her blessing. Maria, I need to talk to you about something, I began after we had ordered. I know we already picked out the pink dress, but I found something else that I think would be perfect for the wedding. Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. What do you mean? There's this emerald green dress that I fell in love with. It's elegant and appropriate, and I think it would actually enhance the wedding photos rather than detract from them. Different colors can create visual interest and... No, Maria interrupti. Absolutely not. We already decided on pink. But think about it. I pressed, pulling out my phone to show her photos I had taken. Look how beautiful this color is. And it's not white or anything that would compete with your dress. It's just a different color. Maria's face was flushed with anger. I can't believe you're doing this to me, Isabella. This is my wedding day. The one day that's supposed to be about me, and you're trying to make it about yourself again. That's not what I'm doing, I protested. I just want to feel beautiful too. That doesn't take anything away from you. Everything takes something away from me when it comes to you, she snapped. You always have to be the prettiest, the smartest, the most successful. Can't you just let me have this one day? The accusation stung, because it was so unfair. I had never tried to compete with Maria or make her feel less than. If anything, I had spent years downplaying my achievements to avoid hurting her feelings. Maria, that's not fair. I've never tried to compete with you. Really, she said, her voice rising. Like when you had to join student government after I said I was thinking about it. Or when you made sure to mention your scholarship at every family gathering. Or when you just happened to start dating someone right after I started seeing Carlos. Each accusation was either completely false or a gross misrepresentation of the facts, but I could see there was no reasoning with her in this state. Fine, I said quietly. I'll wear the pink dress. But the damage was done. The lunch ended in uncomfortable silence, and things between us remained tense in the following weeks. She became increasingly controlling about wedding details, micromanaging everything from my hairstyle to my shoes to ensure I wouldn't stand out in any way. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mom pulled me aside after Sunday dinner. Isabella, Mija, I need to talk to you about something important. We sat in her small garden, surrounded by the roses Dad had planted for her anniversary years ago. Your sister is very stressed about the wedding, she began. She's worried about everything being perfect. I know, Mom. I'm doing everything I can to help her. I know you are, sweetheart. But she's specifically worried about. Mom paused, looking uncomfortable. She's worried about you overshadowing her on her day. I felt like I had been slapped. What does that mean? Well, you know how you are, Mija. You're naturally beautiful. You carry yourself with confidence. Maria is afraid that people will be looking at you instead of her. Mom, she's the bride. She'll be wearing a white dress and walking down the aisle. No one is going to be looking at anyone else. I know. But you know how Maria gets when she feels insecure. Maybe you could just tone it down a little? For her sake. Tone what down? I already agreed to wear the dress she wanted and style my hair the way she asked. Maybe just keep your makeup simple? And perhaps not wear heels so you're not taller than her in the photos. The requests kept coming, each one more ridiculous than the last. I was asked to avoid certain jewelry that might catch the light, to not curl my hair because it might look too glamorous, to wear a cardigan over my dress during the reception in case the neckline was too attention-grabbing. With each concession I made, I felt a little piece of myself disappearing. But I told myself it was temporary, just one day, and after the wedding, things would go back to normal. I should have known better. 1 week before the wedding, I had to work late at the marketing firm where I had recently started as a junior account executive. We were presenting a major campaign to a client the following morning, and I stayed until nearly midnight perfecting the presentation materials. When I finally got home to my small apartment, I was exhausted and went straight to bed without checking on anything other than setting my alarm. The next morning, I woke up early to review my presentation notes one more time before heading to the office. As I was getting dressed, I decided to try on my maid of honor dress one final time to make sure it still fit properly after the recent alterations. I opened my closet and immediately knew something was wrong. The dress was there, hanging where I had left it, but something about it looked different. As I lifted it from the hanger, my heart sank into my stomach. The dress had been systematically destroyed. Someone had taken scissors or a razor blade to the fabric, creating long tears from the neckline to the hem. The sleeves were shredded, the zipper was broken, and there were stains that looked like bleach spots scattered across the bodice. It was completely unwearable, destroyed beyond any possibility of repair. I stood there holding the ruined dress, my hands shaking as the full implications hit me. This wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately done this, and there was only 1 week left before the wedding. Finding a replacement dress in the right color and getting it altered in time would be nearly impossible. My first instinct was to call Maria, but as I reached for my phone, a horrible realization crept in. Who else besides my family had a key to my apartment? Who else knew exactly where I kept the dress? Who else would have a motive to destroy it? I sank onto my bed, still clutching the ruined fabric, as the pieces fell into place. The casual way Mom had suggested I tone down my appearance. The increasingly specific requests about what I should and shouldn't wear. Maria's growing anxiety about being overshadowed. They had planned this. My phone rang, interrupting my spiraling thoughts. It was Maria. "Hey, ISA," she said, her voice bright and cheerful. "I was just calling to confirm the final fitting appointment this afternoon. You're still coming, right?" "Maria," I said slowly, "did you or Mom come to my apartment yesterday?" A pause. "What? Why would we do that?" "Someone destroyed my dress. It's completely ruined." Another pause, longer this time. "Oh no. That's terrible. What happened?" Her tone was perfectly calibrated, shocked but not surprised, concerned but not panicked. It was the voice of someone who was expecting this call. "I don't know what happened," I said, testing her. "I'm wondering if someone broke in." "That's so scary. Should you call the police? Although, maybe it's better not to involve them so close to the wedding. You know how these things can escalate." The suggestion not to call the police confirmed my suspicions. This wasn't a random break-in, and she knew it. "I guess I'll have to find a new dress somehow," I said, watching for her reaction. "Oh, don't worry about that," Maria said quickly. "Mom and I were actually at the mall yesterday, and we saw this beautiful pink dress that would be perfect for you. It's much more appropriate than that other one anyway. We can go pick it up today after your fitting." There it was. They already had a replacement ready. This hadn't been a spontaneous act of sabotage. It had been carefully planned and executed. "You bought me a dress?" I asked. "Well, we wanted to surprise you. We thought you might be more comfortable in something that better fits the wedding aesthetic." The gaslighting was breathtaking. They had destroyed my dress and were now presenting the replacement as a thoughtful gift, as if they were doing me a favor. "I see," I said quietly. "And this dress you picked out, what does it look like?" "It's beautiful. Very conservative and elegant. High neckline, long sleeves, midi length. Much more appropriate for a church ceremony. And the color is perfect, that soft pink we originally talked about." Everything about the description told me this dress was designed to make me invisible. Conservative, covered up, unremarkable. The polar opposite of the emerald dress that had made me feel confident and beautiful. "Sounds perfect," I lied. "I'll see you at the fitting." After I hung up, I sat in my destroyed bedroom, feeling a mix of rage, hurt, and something else I couldn't quite identify at first. Then I realized what it was: clarity. For years, I had made excuses for my family's behavior, telling myself they meant well, that they were just trying to protect Maria's feelings. But there was no justifying this. They had violated my personal space, destroyed my property, and were now gaslighting me about it. I called my best friend Sophia, who lived across town and worked as a paralegal at a law firm. "They did what?" she shrieked when I explained what had happened. "Isabella, that's breaking and entering. That's destruction of property. That's insane." "I know," I said, my voice hollow. "I just can't believe they actually did this." "Do you want me to come over? You shouldn't be dealing with this alone." "Actually, yes. I think I need help figuring out what to do next." Sophia arrived within an hour, taking one look at the destroyed dress and immediately documenting everything with her phone. "We're calling the police," she said firmly. "This is a crime." "But they're my family," I protested weakly. "So what? Family doesn't give anyone the right to break into your home and destroy your belongings. This is psychotic behavior, Isabella." As we waited for the police to arrive, I called my cousin Elena, who had always been like an older sister to me. She lived in Houston but had always been someone I could trust with difficult situations. "Mija, are you serious right now?" she said after I explained what had happened. "Tia, Carmen, and Maria did this?" "I think so. I can't prove it, but they're the only ones with keys, and Maria already has a replacement dress picked out." "This is beyond toxic, Isabella. This isn't normal family drama. This is abuse." The word hit me like a physical blow. Abuse. I had never thought of my family's behavior in those terms, but Elena was right. The years of diminishing my achievements, the constant pressure to make myself smaller to accommodate Maria's insecurities, and now this violation of my personal space, it was a pattern of abuse designed to control and manipulate me. When the police arrived, they took my statement and documented the scene. The officer, a middle-aged Latino woman named Detective Ramirez, was sympathetic but direct. "Do you have any evidence that your family members were responsible for this?" she asked. "Not concrete evidence," I admitted. "But they're the only ones with access to my apartment, and my sister already has a replacement dress ready for me." Detective Ramirez raised an eyebrow. "That's certainly suspicious timing. Have there been other incidents of controlling or manipulative behavior?" As I began to describe the years of subtle manipulation and the escalating demands around the wedding, Detective Ramirez nodded knowingly. "What you're describing sounds like a pattern of emotional abuse and control," she said. "The destruction of your property is just the latest escalation. I'd strongly recommend you consider changing your locks and setting clear boundaries with these family members." After the police left, Sophia and I sat in my living room, processing everything that had happened. "So, what are you going to do?" she asked. "Are you still going to the wedding?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Part of me wants to confront them, but part of me just wants to disappear." "What does your gut tell you?" I thought about it for a long moment. My gut tells me that if I let them get away with this, it will never end. They'll keep finding new ways to control and diminish me. "Then you know what you have to do." She was right. I couldn't let this stand. But I also wasn't going to stoop to their level with petty revenge or dramatic confrontations. I was going to handle this with dignity and make sure the truth came to light. That afternoon, I went to the bridal salon for Maria's final fitting, wearing a casual sundress and carrying the ruined maid of honor dress in a garment bag. I arrived a few minutes early and asked to speak with the store manager privately. "I need to document something that happened to a dress purchased from your store," I said, showing her the destroyed garment. "It was deliberately sabotaged, and I may need your testimony if this becomes a legal matter." The manager, a professional woman in her 50s, examined the dress with growing shock. "This was definitely done with intent," she said. "These aren't accidental tears. Someone took significant time and effort to destroy this dress." She took detailed photos and wrote up a statement describing the condition of the dress, providing me with copies for my records. When Maria and Mom arrived for the fitting, both of them scanned me quickly, clearly looking for signs of distress or anger. I kept my expression neutral and pleasant. "How are you feeling, Mija?" Mom asked, her voice carefully concerned. "I heard about what happened to your dress. Such a shame." "Yes," I said calmly. "It was quite a shock to discover someone had broken into my apartment and destroyed it." Maria's eyes flickered with something that might have been guilt, but she recovered quickly. "Well, thank goodness we found that perfect replacement for you. You'll love it, I promise." During Maria's fitting, I complimented her dress enthusiastically and made normal conversation about last-minute wedding details. But inside, I was documenting everything. Their reactions, their comments, their complete lack of surprise about the dress being destroyed. After the fitting, they took me to a discount department store where they had put a dress on hold. It was exactly as Maria had described, conservative to the point of frumpiness, in a washed-out pink that would make me look sallow, and at least 2 sizes too large. "It's perfect," Mom said, holding it up against me. "So appropriate and modest." "The fit looks a little loose," I pointed out. "That's good," Maria said quickly. "We don't want it to be too fitted or attention-grabbing. This way you'll be comfortable and appropriate." I tried on the dress in the fitting room, staring at my reflection in dismay. The large size made me look shapeless and dowdy, the color washed out my complexion, and the high neckline and long sleeves covered every inch of skin. It was clearly chosen to make me as unremarkable as possible. "It's lovely," I lied when I emerged from the fitting room. "Thank you for thinking of me." They both beamed with satisfaction, clearly pleased with how effectively they had neutralized any possibility of me standing out at the wedding. That evening, I called Elena back and told her about the day's events. They're not even trying to hide it anymore, she said, her voice tight with anger. They destroyed your dress and then bought you something designed to make you invisible. I know, but I have a plan. What kind of plan? The kind that will expose exactly who they really are without me having to say a word. Over the next few days, I put my plan into motion. First, I contacted a local news reporter who specialized in human interest stories about family dynamics and toxic relationships. I explained what had happened, providing the police report, photos of the destroyed dress, and documentation from the bridal salon. This is a powerful story about family manipulation and control, the reporter said. Would you be willing to go on camera? After the wedding, I said. I don't want to create a media circus that would hurt innocent people, but I want the story told. Next, I reached out to several family members who had always been supportive of me, Elena, my godmother Aunt Rosa, and my paternal grandmother, Abuela Sofia. I didn't ask them to take sides or create drama, but I wanted them to know the truth about what had happened. Their reactions were universally supportive and horrified. Mija, this is not the family we raised you girls to be, Abuela Sofia said, her voice heavy with disappointment. What they did is shameful. I also hired a professional photographer, a friend of Sophia's who specialized in event photography, to discreetly document the wedding. I wanted a record of everything that happened, particularly my family's reactions when I implemented my plan. The most important part of my strategy, however, was the dress. I wasn't going to wear the frumpy pink replacement they had chosen for me. Instead, I had something much better in mind. 3 days before the wedding, I drove to San Marcos to visit my cousin Elena. She was almost exactly my size and had an extensive wardrobe from her job in marketing at a luxury hotel. I need to borrow something spectacular, I told her. Something that will make a statement without being inappropriate for a wedding. Elena led me to her walk-in closet with a grin. I have exactly the thing. She pulled out a stunning cocktail dress in deep sapphire blue. It was elegant and sophisticated, with a classic fit and flare silhouette, 3/4 sleeves, and a hemline that hit just above the knee. The color was rich and vibrant, and the cut was flattering without being revealing. This is perfect, I breathed, holding it up against myself in the mirror. It's yours, Elena said firmly. And I'm coming to the wedding to see their faces when you walk in wearing it. You don't have to do that. Oh yes, I do. Someone needs to witness this family getting called out for their behavior. Besides, I wouldn't miss it for the world. The day of the wedding arrived with bright sunshine and warm temperatures. I woke up early and took my time getting ready, styling my hair in elegant waves and applying makeup that enhanced my natural features without being overdone. I wanted to look beautiful but appropriate, stunning but not attention-seeking. When I put on Elena's sapphire dress, I felt like myself again for the first time in weeks. The color brought out my eyes, the cut flattered my figure, and most importantly, it made me feel confident and beautiful. This was how I wanted to feel at my sister's wedding, not hidden or diminished, but celebrating both her happiness and my own self-worth. I arrived at the church an hour before the ceremony was scheduled to begin, knowing my family would be busy with final preparations and wouldn't see me until it was too late for them to do anything about my appearance. The first person to spot me was Carlos, Maria's fiancé, who was greeting guests near the entrance. Isabella, wow, he said, his eyes widening with surprise. You look absolutely stunning. That color is incredible on you. Thank you, Carlos. You clean up pretty well yourself, I replied with a smile. He looked handsome in his charcoal gray tuxedo, and more importantly, he looked happy and relaxed. Other family members and friends began arriving, and their compliments on my appearance were immediate and enthusiastic. Aunt Rosa hugged me tightly and whispered, You look like a queen, Mija. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Abuela Sofia took my hands in hers and smiled proudly. Beautiful inside and out, just like always. I was greeting guests and accepting compliments when I heard a sharp intake of breath behind me. I turned to find Mom standing in the doorway leading from the bridal preparation area, her face a mask of shock and fury. Isabella, she said in a low, dangerous voice. What are you wearing? A dress, I replied calmly. Don't I look nice? That's not the dress we bought you. No, it's not. The dress you bought me didn't fit properly, so I found something more suitable. Mom's face flushed with anger, but before she could respond, other family members approached to say hello, forcing her to compose herself and put on a pleasant facade. 20 minutes later, Maria appeared, resplendent in her white wedding gown. She looked absolutely beautiful, and I told her so sincerely. But when her eyes fell on my dress, her face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, and finally, rage. "What the hell are you wearing?" she hissed, pulling me aside. "It's a lovely dress, don't you think? The color complements your wedding palette beautifully. That's not the dress we picked out for you."
"No, it's not."
"This one fits much better and makes me feel confident for your special day." "You're trying to upstage me," she accused, her voice rising. "On my wedding day, you're trying to steal attention from me. Maria, you're wearing a stunning white wedding gown, and you're the bride. No one is going to be looking at anyone else. This is your day, and you look absolutely radiant." But logic wasn't penetrating her anger. You always have to be the center of attention. You always have to make everything about you. Before I could respond, the wedding coordinator approached us with a stressed expression. "Ladies, we need to start lining up for the processional. Are we ready?" Maria looked at me one more time, her eyes filled with fury, then turned to the coordinator. "We have a problem. My maid of honor is wearing an inappropriate dress." The coordinator, a professional woman in her 40s who had clearly dealt with family drama before, looked at my outfit with a neutral expression. "I don't see anything inappropriate about her attire. It's elegant and suitable for a wedding." "But it's not what we agreed on," Maria insisted. "I understand there may have been a change of plans," the coordinator said diplomatically, "but we need to start the ceremony on time. Your guests are seated and waiting." The photographer, a middle-aged man with a kind smile, had been setting up his equipment nearby and overheard the conversation. "If I may," he interjected, "the maid of honor looks lovely, and the blue will actually photograph beautifully against the pink bridesmaids' dresses. It will add visual interest to the photos." Maria looked like she wanted to argue further, but the coordinator was already organizing the processional lineup. Dad appeared at that moment, looking handsome in his dark suit and ready to walk Maria down the aisle. "What's the holdup?" he asked, then noticed me for the first time. His face darkened immediately. "Isabella, what are you wearing?" "She's trying to ruin my wedding," Maria said, tears threatening her carefully applied makeup. "No one is ruining anything," I said firmly. "I'm wearing a beautiful dress to celebrate my sister's marriage. That's what we're here for." The coordinator stepped in again. "Sir, we really need to begin the ceremony. The officiant is ready, and your guests are waiting." Dad looked like he wanted to say more, but the pressure of the timeline and the presence of other people forced him to acquiesce. "We'll discuss this later," he said to me in a low voice. As we lined up for the processional, I could feel the tension radiating from my family, but I kept my composure. I had done nothing wrong. I was appropriately dressed, I was fulfilling my role as maid of honor, and I was there to support Maria on her wedding day. The ceremony proceeded beautifully. Maria looked radiant as she walked down the aisle on Dad's arm, and Carlos's face lit up with joy when he saw her. Their vows were heartfelt and personal, and despite everything that had happened, I felt genuinely happy for them in that moment. During the professional photos after the ceremony, the photographer arranged us in various groupings, and I noticed that my blue dress did indeed photograph beautifully alongside the pink bridesmaids' dresses. The color combination was striking and elegant, adding depth and visual interest to the images. "Beautiful," the photographer murmured as he reviewed the shots on his camera. "These are going to be stunning." But I could see Maria's growing agitation as guest after guest complimented my appearance during the cocktail hour. "You look gorgeous, Isabella," or "what a beautiful dress," seemed to fuel her resentment. The breaking point came during the reception dinner. I was seated at the head table, as befitted my role as maid of honor, when Maria's college friend Jennifer approached our table. "Maria, you look absolutely stunning," Jennifer gushed. "And Isabella, that dress is to die for. Where did you get it? You look like a movie star." I could see Maria's jaw tighten, but she managed a stiff smile and thanked Jennifer for the compliment. As the evening progressed, the pattern continued. Guests would compliment Maria on how beautiful she looked, then turn to me with equally enthusiastic praise. In a normal family dynamic, this would have been a source of joy, both sisters looking their best and being celebrated. But in our toxic dynamic, every compliment directed at me was perceived as something being taken away from Maria. During the dancing portion of the reception, Carlos approached me with a smile. "Mind if I steal the maid of honor for a dance?" he asked. "Of course," I replied, accepting his outstretched hand. As we moved onto the dance floor, Carlos shook his head with a mixture of admiration and concern. "You know you've caused quite a stir tonight, right?" "I just wore a dress to my sister's wedding," I said innocently. "A very beautiful dress that's got your family all worked up," he observed. "Maria's been upset about it all evening." "I'm sorry about that. I never intended to upset anyone." Carlos studied my face for a moment. "You know what I think? I think you intended exactly this. And honestly, good for you." I looked at him in surprise. "What do you mean?" "I've been watching this family dynamic for 3 years now," he said quietly. "The way they constantly try to dim your light to make Maria feel brighter. It's not healthy, and it's not fair to either of you." "Carlos, I love your sister," he continued, "but she needs to learn that someone else's success or beauty doesn't diminish her own. And your parents need to stop enabling her insecurity by tearing you down." His words were a validation I hadn't expected, and they brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you for saying that. Just promise me you won't let them convince you that you've done something wrong tonight," Carlos continued. "You look beautiful. You've been nothing but supportive, and you deserve to feel confident and happy too." As the song ended, Carlos gave me a supportive squeeze on the shoulder before returning to Maria, who had been watching our conversation with obvious displeasure. The evening continued with the usual wedding festivities, toasts, cake cutting, and more dancing. I participated in everything with grace and enthusiasm, genuinely celebrating Maria and Carlos's union despite the underlying tension. But I could feel my parents' disapproving stares and Maria's growing agitation as the night wore on. The confrontation I had been expecting finally came as the reception was winding down. I was helping gather gifts and personal items when Mom cornered me near the gift table. "We need to talk," she said in a low, angry voice. "Right now." She led me to a quiet corridor outside the reception hall, where Dad and Maria quickly joined us. Maria had changed out of her wedding dress into a simple white sundress for her departure, but her face was flushed with anger and tears. "How could you do this to me?" Maria began immediately. "On my wedding day, how could you deliberately try to upstage me?" "I didn't try to upstage anyone," I replied calmly. "I wore a beautiful dress to celebrate your marriage." "That wasn't the dress we picked out for you," Mom said accusingly. "We specifically chose something appropriate, and you deliberately wore something attention-grabbing instead. The dress you chose was 2 sizes too large and made me look terrible," I said. "I found something that fit properly and made me feel confident." "It was never about you feeling confident," Dad said, his voice hard. "It was about supporting your sister on her special day." "And how does me feeling terrible about myself support Maria? How does me looking bad in an ill-fitting dress make her wedding better?" "Because it's not about you," Maria shouted, finally losing control. "For once in your life, it wasn't supposed to be about you being the prettiest or the most successful or the center of attention. Maria, I have never tried to compete with you or take attention away from you. You're the one who sees everything as a competition." "That's not true," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You always have to be perfect. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect everything. And now you couldn't even let me have one perfect day without making it about yourself." "Your day was perfect," I said gently. "You looked absolutely stunning. Your ceremony was beautiful, and everyone had a wonderful time celebrating your marriage to Carlos. But everyone was talking about you too," she said, her voice breaking. "About how beautiful you looked, how amazing your dress was. It was supposed to be my day." The pain in her voice was real, but so was the twisted logic behind it. In Maria's mind, any positive attention directed at anyone else somehow diminished her own worth. "Maria," I said softly, There's room for more than one person to look beautiful at the same time. Me wearing a nice dress doesn't make you less beautiful or less important. You don't understand, she said, shaking her head. You've never understood what it's like to be your sister. Then help me understand. Tell me how I can be supportive without disappearing entirely. But instead of answering, she turned to our parents. I told you this would happen. I told you she would find a way to make it about herself. Mom stepped forward, her face stern. Isabella, you knew how important this day was to your sister, and you deliberately chose to defy what we agreed on. We didn't agree on anything, I said firmly. You destroyed my original dress and tried to force me to wear something that made me feel awful about myself. The words hung in the air like a challenge. For a moment, none of them responded, and I could see the calculation in their eyes as they tried to decide whether to continue the lie. Finally, Dad spoke. We don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Someone broke into my apartment and destroyed my dress with scissors and bleach. Someone who had a key and knew exactly where to find it. That's a serious accusation, Mom said carefully. Do you have any proof? I filed a police report. I have documentation from the bridal salon. And most importantly, I have the fact that you immediately had a replacement dress ready, as if you were expecting this to happen. Maria's face had gone pale, but she lifted her chin defiantly. Even if someone did that, maybe they were trying to protect me from your selfishness. The casual admission took my breath away. She wasn't even denying it anymore. So you're admitting that you knew about it, I said quietly. I'm admitting that I asked for help making sure my wedding day would be about me for once instead of you, she said. And clearly, that was the right thing to do, because look what you did when you had the chance. The logic was so twisted, so fundamentally wrong, that I almost couldn't process it. They had violated my personal space, destroyed my property, and manipulated me into nearly wearing something that would have made me miserable, and they were still trying to frame themselves as the victims. I wore a beautiful dress to my sister's wedding, I said slowly. That's what I did. I looked nice and celebrated your marriage and fulfilled every responsibility of being your maid of honor. You knew it would upset me, Maria insisted. Your being upset about me looking nice is your problem, not mine. I will not make myself less to make you feel like more. The statement was clear and final, and I could see it land like a physical blow. For years, that's exactly what they had expected me to do, to diminish myself so Maria could feel superior. Fine, Maria said, her voice cold. If that's how you want it to be, then don't expect to be part of this family anymore. Maria, Carlos's voice came from behind us. None of us had heard him approach, but he was standing at the end of the corridor, his expression troubled. What's going on here? Nothing, Maria said quickly, wiping her eyes. Just sister stuff. But Carlos had clearly heard enough to understand the situation. He looked at me with concern, then at his new wife with disappointment. Maria, you can't cut your sister out of the family, because she wore a nice dress to our wedding. You don't understand, she began, but he held up a hand. I understand perfectly. I've been watching this dynamic all evening, and it needs to stop. He turned to address all of them. Isabella has been nothing but supportive and gracious tonight. She looked beautiful, yes, but so did you, Maria. So did everyone. There's no limit on how many people can look nice at the same time. Carlos, please don't get involved in family matters, Mom said with forced politeness. I am family now, he replied firmly. And as Isabella's brother-in-law, I'm not going to stand by and watch her be treated this way. The intervention from Carlos seemed to deflate some of the anger in the group, but the damage was done. The truth had been revealed. They had destroyed my dress. They felt justified in doing so, and they were angry that their manipulation hadn't worked. I think I should go, I said quietly. Congratulations again, Maria. I hope you and Carlos will be very happy together. As I turned to leave, Elena appeared with Sophia and several other supportive family members who had witnessed parts of the confrontation. Ready to go, Prima? Elena asked, linking her arm through mine. More than ready, I replied. As we walked away, I heard Carlos's voice behind us, speaking to Maria in low, serious tones. I couldn't make out the words, but his tone suggested he was not pleased with what he had witnessed. The ride home was quiet at first, with Elena and Sophia processing what they had seen and heard. "I can't believe they actually admitted to destroying your dress," Sophia finally said. "And then tried to make you the villain for not wearing their replacement. The level of manipulation is staggering," Elena added. "And the fact that they still think they were in the right." "I know," I said, staring out the window at the passing streetlights. "But I'm glad it's finally out in the open. No more pretending this is normal family dynamics." Over the next few days, the fallout from the wedding continued to ripple through our extended family. Several relatives reached out to express their support and share their own observations about the toxic patterns they had witnessed over the years. Aunt Rosa called to tell me she was proud of how I had handled myself. "You showed them that you won't be controlled or diminished, Mija. That takes courage." Abuela Sophia invited me for lunch and spoke candidly about her disappointment in her son and daughter-in-law's behavior. "This is not how we raised your father to treat family," she said sadly. "Your parents have forgotten what love really looks like." Most surprisingly, Carlos reached out 3 days after the wedding. "I wanted to apologize for my wife's behavior," he said when I answered his call. "And your parents' behavior. What I witnessed at the wedding was completely unacceptable. Carlos, you don't need to apologize for them." "Yes, I do. Maria is my wife now, and if she's going to be part of my life, she needs to learn how to treat people with respect. We're going to counseling." I was touched by his commitment to addressing the issue. "How is she handling that suggestion?" "Not well, initially. But I made it clear that our marriage depends on her willingness to work on these unhealthy patterns. I won't be married to someone who treats her family the way I saw her treat you." The conversation gave me hope that Maria might eventually be willing to examine her behavior and work toward healthier relationships. A week after the wedding, the local news story I had arranged was published. The reporter had done an excellent job of focusing on the broader issues of family manipulation and toxic dynamics rather than sensationalizing the specific details. The article discussed the importance of maintaining personal boundaries within families and featured quotes from psychologists about recognizing and addressing emotional abuse. The story was picked up by several online platforms and sparked conversations about family toxicity and wedding-related stress. I received messages from dozens of people sharing their own experiences with similar family dynamics. My parents' reaction to the article was predictably explosive. Dad left an angry voicemail accusing me of airing family business and embarrassing them in front of the community. Mom sent a series of texts calling me ungrateful and selfish. But for every angry message from my immediate family, I received 3 supportive messages from extended family, friends, and even strangers who had been inspired by my decision to stand up for myself. 2 weeks after the wedding, I made the decision to change the locks on my apartment and install a security system. The violation of my personal space had left me feeling unsafe, and I needed to know that my home was truly secure. I also began seeing a therapist who specialized in family trauma and toxic relationships. Dr. Patricia Martinez helped me understand the long-term effects of growing up in a family system where my worth was consistently undermined to prop up Maria's self-esteem. "What you experienced is called parentification and scapegoating," she explained during one of our sessions. "Your parents trained you to be responsible for managing Maria's emotions, even at the expense of your own well-being." "I always thought I was just being a good sister," I said. "There's a difference between being supportive and being responsible for someone else's emotional regulation. You were never responsible for Maria's insecurities, and you shouldn't have been expected to sacrifice your own happiness to manage them." The therapy sessions were difficult but healing. I began to understand how years of subtle manipulation had shaped my sense of self-worth and my relationships with others. 1 month after the wedding, I received an unexpected letter from Maria. Unlike the angry texts and voicemails that had preceded it, this letter was thoughtful and introspective. "Isabella," it began, "Carlos and I have been going to counseling, and I'm starting to understand some things about myself and our family that I never saw before." She went on to describe how the therapist had helped her recognize the competitive dynamic she had created and maintained with me. I realize now that I was so afraid of being overshadowed that I couldn't see how I was trying to dim your light to make myself feel brighter. The letter wasn't a complete apology. She still struggled to fully acknowledge the severity of what they had done to my dress, but it was a beginning. She expressed a desire to work on rebuilding our relationship on healthier terms. I responded with a measured letter of my own, expressing appreciation for her willingness to seek help while maintaining clear boundaries about what kind of relationship I was willing to have moving forward. I love you as my sister, I wrote, but I will never again accept being treated as less than in order to make you feel like more. If you're truly committed to changing these patterns, then I'm willing to work toward a healthier relationship. My parents' journey toward accountability was slower and more resistant. It took several months of pressure from extended family and their own guilt before they agreed to meet with a family therapist. Even then, they initially tried to frame the session as a way to help me understand their perspective rather than examining their own behavior. But Dr. Martinez was skilled at redirecting these attempts at manipulation. "Let's focus on the actions that brought us here," she said firmly. "Isabella is not here to be fixed. She's here to decide whether a relationship with you is possible given the harm that was done." The sessions were grueling. My parents struggled to move beyond justifying their actions and take genuine responsibility for the damage they had caused. But slowly, painfully, they began to acknowledge the toxicity of the patterns they had created. "We thought we were protecting Maria," Mom said during one particularly difficult session. "We didn't realize we were hurting you both." "Your intentions don't excuse the impact," Dr. Martinez replied. "And you need to understand that good intentions paired with harmful actions are still harmful actions." 6 months after the wedding, my life had transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined. I had established firm boundaries with my family, built a strong support network of healthy relationships, and developed a much clearer sense of my own worth. My relationship with Maria was slowly improving. She was genuinely committed to therapy and working to understand the roots of her competitive behavior. We had started having coffee together occasionally, conversations that were tentative but honest. "I'm starting to see how afraid I was," she told me during one of these meetings. "Afraid that if you succeeded or looked beautiful or got attention, somehow there wouldn't be any left for me." "There's enough success and beauty and love for both of us," I replied. "There always was." My parents remained more challenging. While they had made some progress in therapy, they still occasionally slipped back into old patterns of guilt and manipulation. I maintained limited contact with them, engaging only when I felt emotionally strong enough to handle their behavior. The most unexpected development was my relationship with Carlos. He had become a genuine ally and friend, someone who understood the family dynamics and was committed to helping Maria heal from them. Their marriage was stronger for having addressed these issues directly. "Thank you," he said to me during a family gathering we both attended, "for standing up for yourself that night. It forced all of us to confront things that needed to be confronted." "I didn't do it for anyone else," I replied honestly. "I did it because I finally realized I deserved better." That's exactly why it worked. A year after the wedding, I was promoted to senior account executive at my marketing firm. My confidence and clarity about my own worth had translated into stronger professional relationships and better work performance. I also started dating someone new, a kind, supportive man named David who had no patience for drama or manipulation. Our relationship was built on mutual respect and genuine appreciation for each other's successes. "I love how you light up when you talk about your achievements," he told me early in our relationship. "Your family trained you to apologize for being successful, but I want to celebrate it with you." The contrast between healthy and toxic relationships became crystal clear through David's eyes. He couldn't understand why anyone would want to diminish someone they claimed to love. Looking back on that night at Maria's wedding, I feel a complex mix of emotions. I'm sorry that it took such a dramatic confrontation to expose the truth about our family dynamics. I'm sad about the years of happiness and closeness we lost to jealousy and manipulation. But I'm also grateful. That night forced me to stop participating in my own diminishment. It showed me that I had been accepting treatment that was completely unacceptable. And it started a process of healing that has transformed not just my life, but potentially Maria's and even my parents' lives as well. The emerald dress I had originally wanted to wear still hangs in my closet, unworn but not forgotten. Sometimes I look at it and remember the woman I was before, someone who would have accepted wearing an ill-fitting, unflattering dress to keep the peace. The sapphire dress Elena lent me has a place of honor in my wardrobe. I've worn it to several special occasions since the wedding, and each time I put it on, I remember the night I decided to stop making myself smaller for other people's comfort. If you're dealing with similar family dynamics, please know that you don't have to accept being diminished or manipulated. You deserve relationships that celebrate your successes rather than resenting them. You deserve family members who want you to shine, not people who try to dim your light. Setting boundaries with toxic family members is one of the hardest things you can do, but it's also one of the most important. Sometimes the people who claim to love you are actually the ones holding you back from becoming who you're meant to be. The dress was just fabric and thread, but what it represented, my right to feel beautiful and confident, was worth fighting for. And in the end, standing up for that right didn't just change my relationship with my family. It changed my relationship with myself. That night, wearing Elena's sapphire dress and refusing to be invisible, I learned that sometimes the most radical act of love is refusing to accept less than you deserve. Even from family. Especially from family. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, you deserve to shine. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.